Today's show is brought to you by a former guest, Helix TCS, one of the largest publicly traded non-plant touching cannabis companies in the world, trading on the OTC under ticker symbol HLIX. Their portfolio of industry-leading technology, compliance, and security companies is designed to scale internationally to capitalize on the inevitable proliferation of legal cannabis without the risk and limitations of being a cannabis producer. Record Q2 earnings, driven by their market share leading seed-to-sale tracking software, has positioned Helix TCS as one of the most exciting ancillary companies in the cannabis industry. To learn more about Helix TCS trading under ticker HLIX, go to helixtcs.com or listen to Raising Cannabis Capital, episode 96.
If you're thinking about developing a product and you're thinking about producing a product and you're doing it on gut, that's part of your magic, but you should have some data to back it up, to give confidence to your customers to be able to say, I can tell you what I'm giving you and I've got the data to back it up.
Especially in the cannabis industry, where we're going to start seeing some brands really start to emerge. And really, the brands that are going to emerge and get that competitive differentiation are going to be the ones who are doing things right.
From MJBulls Media, it's the Raising Cannabis Capital Show. I'm Dan Humiston, and on today's show, how this 40-year-old analytics company is providing cannabis companies with mainstream tools to help them make decisions based on their statistical information. Today at Raising Cannabis Capital, we're joined by Josh Zable and Jenn Atlas from MiniTabs. Josh and Jenn, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Every day, the cannabis industry becomes more and more accepted and becomes more mainstream. And on today's show, it's a great example because our guest, MiniTab, is a company that's been around, over 40 years. And now you're bringing your expertise to the cannabis industry, which is so exciting. Josh and Jenn, MiniTab is a statistical software company that helps companies organize and better utilize their data. Josh, maybe you can tell us more specifically how you do that.
Yeah, Dan. So first of all, thanks again for having us. Long-time listener, first-time caller here. So appreciate what you're doing and think you're bringing a great service to the industry. And, as I've listened over time, I thought to myself, I think there's something MiniTab can do here. So a little bit of background. MiniTab is a really nice story created by professors who wanted to help their students learn statistics back in 1972. As the students moved into the workplace, they actually took MiniTab with them. It really started to grow when continuous improvement and this notion of the importance of quality came about in the 80s. And I was just thinking to myself, MiniTab was on the cutting edge of bringing that sort of knowledge and data analysis to that industry. And here we are, I believe, on the cusp of a lot of growth for the cannabis industry. And MiniTab wants to support doing it the right way by bringing quality product to market.
But now this software has evolved from used as a tool in the statistical classes in college. Now it's evolved to so much more.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've evolved quite a bit, but really the product makes statistics easy and digestible. We pride ourselves on having the software be able to be used by everyday people who are just trying to do their jobs. So you use statistics to make sure that you've got consistency and quality. MiniTab is a really cost-effective, easy-to-use tool that can really help produce good quality, consistent product and avoid some of the pitfalls that most manufacturers do, whether it's cannabis or anything else you're manufacturing or producing.
Well, and especially in our industry, because one mistake, it could be so detrimental. You've seen some of the recent stock crashes because just mistakes. And those mistakes hopefully can be avoided if you are taking advantage of the data that's already there and just utilizing it to make better decisions. I know you've already started in the cannabis industry. Would give us a couple of examples as to how companies are taking advantage of MiniTab to improve their efficiency?
Yeah. MiniTab, we believe that no matter what organization you're in, we think regardless of statistical background, you're empowered when you have access to easy-to-use tools. And that's really what we do at MiniTab. It's been interesting in the industry lately, working with a couple organizations up in Canada who are working on the measurement systems. So how do we measure different levels of actives within the products that we're seeing, making sure that those are consistent, that those measurement systems are easy to use, reliable, repeatable.
I want to take a quick break to thank you for listening to today's show. As the leading cannabis podcast network, we're constantly adding new cannabis podcasts to support our industry's growth. And that's why we're so excited to announce our newest podcast, The Cannabis Breakout, which premieres October 18th. The show is about the thousands of Americans who remain in prison for violating cannabis laws that have long since been overturned. The Cannabis Breakout gives cannabis political prisoners a voice. If you're a former cannabis prisoner or have a loved one who is a cannabis prisoner, we want to share your story. Please go to MJBulls.com and sign up to be a guest. And not to get too deep into the weeds here, but how exactly do you do that?
Yeah, so the power comes not so much from the statistics, but the person who's coming to the statistics with their knowledge, with their process knowledge. That's where MiniTab really helps take what is just data, which is kind of boring on its own, and really turn it into information and insight. And that's where the value comes. That's where you see the light bulbs when the scientists or engineers are analyzing some data. Could be a chart over time where just graphing the data over time suddenly shows some kind of impact that, hey, I didn't even know that was going on in my process.
Yeah, it's so important.
What Jenn's saying is, if you're thinking about developing a product and you're thinking about producing a product and you're doing it on gut, that's part of your magic, but you should have some data to back it up, to give confidence to your customers to be able to say, I can tell you what I'm giving you and I've got the data to back it up.
Especially in the cannabis industry, where we're going to start seeing some brands really start to emerge. And really the brands that are going to emerge and get that competitive differentiation are going to be the ones who are doing things right.
You mentioned how important it is to have that secret sauce. But if you're a company that's raising capital, investors want a little bit more backing up that secret sauce. They want some hard numbers that they can rely on to bring back to their team. Saying, I just know it works, sometimes isn't enough. Sometimes you need this extra data. So I think this is important for any of the companies that are out there that are in the process of raising capital. It's always good to back up what you're doing with some hard numbers and some hard data. We've been speaking with Josh Zable and Jenn Atlas from MiniTabs, and we'll have all their contact information on the MJBulls website.
Just want to say thank you. Really appreciate it. Like I said, I've enjoyed everything you're doing, Dan, and thanks for having us.
Just to reiterate, statistics isn't as scary as people think it is. For some reason, they go through school and really don't love the class. It's much easier than you think.
We just need to call it something else. Something other than statistics. It scares everybody away. Well, Josh and Jenn, thank you for being on the show. I really appreciate it. And welcome to the industry. We're glad to have you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Today's show was made possible by the generous support of our sponsors, like Alt36, the country's premier blockchain payment processing platform that's providing dispensaries and its customers with a safe and secure payment option other than cash. To learn more, go to alt36.com. Today's podcast was produced by MJBulls Media, the industry's premier cannabis podcast network, with original music produced in part by Jamie Humiston. I'm Dan Humiston, and you've been listening to the Raising Cannabis Capital podcast.